Am I on? I am on. Hello, hello, hello. I'm going to turn this camera around so you can see where I am. I'm in the same place, so it looks familiar to you. But check that out, sunset. I'm sitting at a place called Sunset Rocks, aptly named, and this beautiful valley. I love coming up here. There's the ocean over there that you can't see, but obviously it's right on the other side of those hills since that's west. And this incredible valley. The other place I often video from is up that way. And there's FromQuesthaven across the way. I don't know if you can see. Can I zoom in on this thing? Oh, yeah. See that? That's the labyrinth that I often walk, which is a wonderful thing to do. Oops, and now I can't unzoom. Huh. Okay. Hey, Judy. All right, I'm going to switch it back around to me. Hello. So I was going to do a video yesterday. I was out for a hike. Ooh, there's little bugs here. But my cell service had no service on the other hike, so I couldn't. Who else is here? Leanne. Hi, Leanne. So I'm still in Southern California at the same retreat place that I've been coming to. I'm so grateful for this place. I say to myself, like, what would I be doing? Where would I be without this? And then I realize it's not a really, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad question, right? But the fact is it does exist. So I can just be grateful for it. I don't have to even wonder, like, what would I be doing if it wasn't for this? I would be doing something else. So I leave on Saturday for Peru, which is a retreat that was supposed to happen. I was supposed to fly out March 20th, 2020, and we all know what happened that week. So the retreat was canceled and was rescheduled once for last year and then rescheduled again. So it's happening. So I've got my flight scheduled and yeah, it's going to be something. I've never been south of the equator, so I'm so looking forward to that. What I'm really looking forward to is looking up at the night sky and not recognizing what I see. Like there's no Big Dipper, I don't think, right? Because that's north. There's a Southern Cross, which I've never seen. So I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to that. The things you look forward to, right? Who else is here? Oh, thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. Yeah, it should be amazing. There's going to be 24 of us. 1 man and 23 women. God love them. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. We're going to be going to a lot of the sacred sites. We'll go to Machu Picchu and we'll be in the Sacred Valley the whole time. I don't know a lot about Peru, but I'll be in Cusco for 4 days or 4 days, 5 nights, I think it is. 4 nights, 3 days, which will be amazing. Anyway, so I wanted to just give an update. So, Lord, I still don't know what I'm doing. In my comment, I said I was going to talk about undoing. I don't know if you're on my email list for my business, which I feel like I want to call my former business, even though it will become something else at some point. I sent out a series of emails not very often. I think I sent out 3 over the last 2 years. But I was referring to the pandemic and those years as the great undoing. And I was talking about it in terms of, first it was the professional undoing where I, first had to close my practice because of the lockdown. And then that led to a series of events where I ended up closing my practice, my physical office, my bodywork practice I had had for 13 years. So I had to end with all my clients, so that was a huge undoing professionally. And then along with that went the personal undoing, which was my relationship of 15 years ended. And I moved out of the house and I moved out of the town I lived in for 10 years, and I moved away from Massachusetts, which is the only place I ever lived for my entire 59 years on this planet. So here I am out west. And, I thought that was the great undoing, and there it was all undone. But since I've been traveling out here and on this journey, I'm like realizing there's way more to undoing than that. Like that's the logistical undoing. But there is an internal undoing that's been progressively happening. And, so many people have said to me as I've been on this journey, how brave it is and how much courage I have. And I'm going to cry. I don't know why. And a lot of people have said, oh, I would love to do that, but I would never be able to do that. I'm too scared, or, varieties, versions of that. And, I was talking to a friend yesterday and I said, I've often throughout my life used this phrase, or jokingly, like self-deprecation is a thing, right? And I've always been pretty good at it, I felt. And so I would say something like, well, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. So I say that, like when this person yesterday said to me, you're so brave. I said, well, I often say there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. And then I realized what I was doing was calling myself stupid, and taking away from the courage, I guess. Why is it so hard to accept positive things about ourselves, So the undoing, I think, is that I've heard how I speak to myself. I don't know if you can relate to this, but I was in the kitchen here the last week, and I did something. I think I was cooking something and it boiled over and made a mess on the stovetop. And I said to myself internally, well, if you had done it like a normal person, and I heard myself say that, and I was like, oh my God, like I would never say that if I was in the kitchen with anybody, whether I know them or not, love them or not. If the pot boiled over, I wouldn't be like, well, if you had done it like, but yet that's the way I talk to myself. I just give myself such a hard time so often. And, on this trip that I've been on, it's been 6 months now, I think. It's emotionally hard. Like I tell people, to tell you the truth, I don't even know how to answer the question anymore. How are you? Or are you okay? I don't even know how to answer that question anymore. I often say things like it's a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs. And, there are times when I am in this journey and I'm just like feeling the freedom of it and the possibility of it. And like, oh my God, look at the things I'm getting to see out here. It's so beautiful out here. It's so different out here. Like even just to go shopping, like I want to buy a new wallet. I don't really have a wallet. And so I want a wallet. I'm like, I don't even know where to go. Like if I was back in Massachusetts, I'd be like, oh, this is a good store to go to for a wallet, But I'm like, I don't even know where to go to buy a wallet out here. Anyway, so yeah, I have days where I'm like that, where I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I get to go. And I also realize how fortunate I am that my life circumstances allow for me to do this. And I also believe that most people could make something like this happen if it was a priority, right? I'd say most because I know it's not true that all could, but I find it very easy to make excuses for myself of why I can't do things like, oh, you may be able to do that, but I never could do that. And the truth is, if it was really important to me, I could probably make pretty much anything happen, maybe most things. Anyway, so there are days when I'm in that, right? I'm in like, wow, this is amazing. But I'm telling you, there are days where I'm just like, what the actual fuck am I doing? Like there were times of just abject panic and terror of like, oh my God, what have I done? And I mean, it's so much grief. I'm grieving the loss, my relationship that's over, grieving the home that I had for 10 years that I loved, grieving my cats that I don't have anymore, grieving my family that, aren't like right next door that I can go visit if I want, even though, the pandemic helped with that because we couldn't visit anyway. But there are days where it's like crippling. I mean, I spend days in bed sometimes, just emotionally so overwhelmed, and what had been happening, and here's part of the undoing, is when I'm in that kind of emotional space, there's a lot of self-judgment, like, oh, what, you decided to do this, whatever, like beating myself up about it. But recently, I think that the final, who knows if it's final, but I'll say that for now, the final piece of the undoing is like even those voices, those self-judgmental voices that are so familiar to me, and I never really even knew how familiar they were, because that's how familiar they were. now when I hear them and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to treat myself like that. Like I wouldn't want to be with somebody that was treating me that way. So why would I want to let myself treat myself that way? So, it's just this process of noticing it, and like, wow, and seeing if I can just like, I was in a rough space last night and I was sitting, and to be honest, I was playing Candy Crush on my phone for like 4 hours, but it's a coping strategy, which, not ideal, but there you go. Could be worse, right? And, in between games, I would just like I could feel myself and how in a rough place emotionally I was. And I was just like rubbing my own heart going, it's okay. I've got you. It's okay. It's okay. We're going to be okay. Like, it's okay. I've got you. I'm taking care of you. It's such a powerful thing to do. Yesterday morning, I've been mostly, I'll have to say, in a rough place emotionally. But it's just part of it, right? It is part of the everything shit. I mean, it's part of the pandemic. It's part of the world. Oh God, so much going on. Yeah. And yesterday morning, I heard myself use the phrase like hanging on by a thread. And then I was like, what does that even mean? What does hanging on by a thread mean? Like, what am I hanging on to? What's that thread attached to? So, when we talk about wanting to change things, right, whether it's personally, in our lives, like in the world, to change things, that means you have to change. And it's not easy, so undoing means changing. It means, and our nervous systems have a hard time with it because our nervous systems default to things that are familiar because that means safety to us. So to change is actually super scary. And so it takes courage, and I'm going to say it's worth it. The reason I hesitate is because I don't know what's coming. I have no idea what my life's going to look like 6 months from now. I get to choose whenever possible to be in excited expectation, hopeful expectation, like positive expectation, like, ooh, what could it be, But just as often I'm in like, I'm 60 years old. I don't have an income. I don't have like a bazillion dollars in savings. This is like, it's the great unknown. And here it is. Here I am. I do feel like the nature of this journey is changing. I will keep doing updates, but like I say, I'm leaving for Peru tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to do an update from there. I might be able to. If I can, I will. But I honestly, I have to choose at some point to live somewhere. And I don't know why that seems like such a hard choice for me. I don't know. So I feel like I was talking to a friend the other day, and I feel like, I don't know if you've ever heard the term, a bardo state. It's a Buddhist term. This is my little Buddhist understanding of like the place in between after you die, your soul, or whatever, I'm not sure what they would refer to it as in Buddhism, is in this bardo state where you kind of, it's not limbo necessarily, but it's, I don't even know how to describe it. But it's between life and death. It's between living and dying, or dying and living, reliving. So I feel like I'm in a bardo state and just have to hang out here. I can't force anything. I just have to hang out here. And boy, it's uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar. I don't know where it's leading. And here it is. So I don't know if this is much of an update. I don't know if this is helpful for you in any way, but things are changing. The world is changing. So I think the more we can try to lean into these bardo states, I've also heard it called the liminal space, like the space between spaces. We have to allow a new thing to come in, like that's what I have to do is allow something new that I don't even know what it is to come in. So I get to choose moment to moment how to be with this. And it's not always pretty, There's addictions that can come in, like sugar addiction can kick in, and but I just give myself some grace in that too. So just that, I guess that's how I'll end, is just give yourself grace. Give the world grace. Give everybody grace. I had another thought when I was hiking that I wanted to share here. Oh, the thing about war, I've been the thing with Ukraine and Russia, and it's I've been reading, seeing a lot of people talking about this, a lot of like spiritual oriented people, and this whole concept about war out there happens. There's this spiritual idea of the micro, as above, so below, as above, so below, as within, so without. And it's like what's happening out there is a reflection of what's happening in here. I've thought for decades that, like, how do we change the world? We change ourselves. We work with ourselves. We heal ourselves. And that's how the world heals. But that doesn't feel like enough a lot of the time, right? Like, yeah, I get to do my personal healing work. I'm privileged to be able to do that. I'm sorry. I laugh to say that because it doesn't feel like a privilege a lot of the time. It feels fucking hard. And that's a privilege I would give back, is to not have to do this deep healing work. But there you go. And I am grateful that I get to do the healing work that I'm doing and have the resources I have. But, so this concept of, there's war out there, people attacking each other, right? So it's like, what's the war within? I was talking about this earlier, the like, well, if you did it like a normal person, that's a war within, right? Or a war between you and someone else, like anybody, whether you're directly involved with them or, road rage, hello, or just the way you think about people that are different than you. Are you waging war against them? There's so much of that, right? Like the divisiveness. So, how do we change the war piece? It's like, look for the places you're waging war within, and also in your immediate world, and see if you can find a way to not wage war, wage peace in those moments, like wage peace with yourself. Notice, don't beat yourself up for beating yourself up, because then you're just beating yourself up double. Notice when you're beating yourself up and choose something different. And then also notice when you're waging war on somebody else out there. Doesn't mean that everybody's behavior is okay, but it's the attacks, it's the war that gets waged against other, that is what is the energy. It's just as within, so without. So, all right, this feels like a long one. I don't know. I didn't realize I had this much to say, but let me flip this again so you can see that where the sunset's at now. And my beautiful valley. So, the end of the day, the end of another day, the cycles, and the sun will rise tomorrow. Stacy's here. Hey, Stacy. Lizzie's here. Oh, hi, you guys. All right. Well, I'm signing off here now. I know this has been a long one. Sending lots of love, and just give yourself some grace. And I will continue giving myself grace. All right. Love you. All right. I always do this. This is how I end. How do I stop this thing?